Hi, I'm Vlad, and this is my digital literacy development project. For this project, I based my development on Doug Belshaw's 8 elements of digital literacy. Taking all these elements into account, the ones I felt I needed to focus most on were the constructive element, the creativity element, and the cognitive element. To develop my digital creativity, I decided to further my skills in PowerPoint by forcing and challenging myself to use unfamiliar tools throughout the program in order to create a PowerPoint that is both informative and visually appealing. To advance my digital skills cognitively and constructively, I chose to tap into the basics of my computer science major by covering the introductory chapters of my reference books, An Introduction to Programming with C++, and Introduction to Computer Science. Merely covering the beginning of each of these books allowed me to gain much more newfound knowledge than I had ever been prepared for. One of the computer processes and components I was able to cover in depth was internal memory, which consists of read-only memory chips, ROM, and random access memory chips, RAM. Together, they work like complements of each other, where ROM is the blueprints and RAM is the workers who keep it going. This whole process begins the second you turn on your computer, and your system automatically searches for ROM, which are the instructions set by the manufacturer and allow your computer to do an automatic self-test of itself, making sure all the components are working properly. Once these tests are done, your computer searches the hard drive for instructions called the operating system, which are then written to RAM chips and stay on your computer throughout the duration of your usage. Aside from internal memory, several other areas I covered within computer engineering and programming involved bus structure, which deals with the transfer of data throughout the computer's components through a collection of wires, as well as the CPU, the central processing unit, which is sometimes known as the brain of the computer and involves fetching instructions from memory and executing these instructions throughout the computer. The CPU can be broken down into two parts, one of them being the arithmetic logic unit, which is responsible for any mathematical calculation needed to be made in the main memory. The other part of the CPU is the CU, the control unit, which is used when any data needs to be moved within the processor, such as when a calculation is needed to be made, it is then moved from the CU to the ALU to be solved. With so much information in my project, a big fear of mine was becoming far too boring and more of a lesson rather than a presentation, which is why, in week 7, when I got this, I knew it was a great opportunity to both develop my digital literacy and liven up my presentation. The moment I got my laptop, I knew who I had to see first, and that was my stepbrother Chris, who works as a system administrator for a software development company called Yardi, and since my freshman year in high school, he has been my connection to learning about new programs and computers in general. Upon visiting him, he showed me several new tricks on my laptop and introduced me to 2 new programs that he himself uses in the workplace. Those programs were TeamViewer and UltraDefrag. TeamViewer was unlike any other program I had been previously exposed to or even knew existed. It allows you to manually operate on someone else's desktop from your own computer screen. As you can see here, I am working off my own computer, but in the window, I am accessing Colleen's MacBook, giving me the ability to repair or view any information within her laptop. I found this program to be extremely important to my future career because in a lot of today's software engineering companies, you can't afford to fly halfway across the country to fix a problem that only takes 5 minutes. The other program I found to be very useful was UltraDefrag. And in this picture here is a layout of a hard drive. And what you notice in it is a lot of gaps. This is because when the operating system writes into the sections of the hard drive, it really doesn't care where it puts the information. It's just trying to get it out there as quickly as possible. And what this program does is that it plays an imaginary game of Tetris, realigning these pieces to the figurative beginning of the hard drive in order for the computer to access this information a lot more efficiently and a lot more quickly. Aside from all the things I had purposely done to further my digital literacy, there have been some things that have come naturally from this class, including my exposure to the collection of programs on Google. A screenshot of my essay revision process in itself was a perfect example of this, where I am accessing Google Docs and have changed the settings, allowing both Colleen and I to simultaneously edit my essay while Skyping at the same time to talk about the changes we were making. This is definitely not something I would have been able to do at the beginning of the semester. To sum this all up, the reason I chose this type of path for my project was because it allowed me to finally reach a much higher level of proficiency in PowerPoint, a program that I find to be very useful for classwork and possibly my future job. This project also gave me a chance to begin developing my knowledge of computer software and engineering in order to become a step closer to my long run in getting a computer science degree.